welcome to the reboot of my vlog with the Vlogger in Paradise competition. This is week 1, and to start off with, looking at who you are and what poker means to you. So to introduce myself, obviously the channel is Poker with Kids. I'm Kerry, 41, live in Melbourne with a wife and 2 kids. Clearly I enjoy playing poker, and for me it's a hobby, but I tend to take some of my hobbies pretty seriously, as you'll see. In terms of how I got into poker and cards, I remember as a young child, parents used to play card games, and obviously I got involved with it as well. I remember they used to have a tub, a little orange Tupperware tub of 1 and 2 cent coins, which had been out of circulation in Australia since 1992. So these have been collected from the 70s and 80s. And they use that to, I think it was a game called Rummy Royal, like a variation on Gin Rummy. Played that. I played a bit as well. Played a bit of card, played card games as well. The favourite when I was at school was one called Big Two. I used to play that on the bus going to school. Once I left school, I really didn't have too much to do with cards until a mate of mine I knew through chess, which is probably an even bigger hobby of mine. A mate of mine, Nick, who might turn up in week 3 of this series if I can sort things out. He used to go to the casino. I'd tag along, and eventually after I finished my uni degree, I was sort of at a bit of a crossroads. I wasn't quite sure what to do, and I actually took a job at the casino in Sydney, then known as Star City, now known as the Star. And that's where I got really introduced to poker. Basically, a couple of the people that were in my training group, had either some relatives or some other friends that they knew, and they invited me and some other people along to a dealer home game. It was run by a guy who actually went on to found the Australian Poker League, which is a sort of pub poker league that is the biggest one in the country by a pretty significant margin. So this was 2004. Again, the timeline for poker in Australia is slightly different. It doesn't really rely on the moneymaker boom. It's more the Hashem boom in 2005 from when Joe Hashem won his World Series of Poker main event. That's what really set poker up in the country, followed with, combined with the Australian Poker League beginning and starting up the pub poker scene, as it were, in the country. 2005 made a pretty significant shift in terms of what I was doing. Actually moved from Sydney to Melbourne, moved in with a few mates I knew through chess. They're also poker players as well, and this is obviously in the early days of like Pacific Poker, Poker Stars, that type of thing. So a lot of those guys played online poker. They got me involved in online poker there as well. I remember one of my early cash outs on Pacific for like 700 or something like that. So I sort of turned $100 into 700, and that was, at least for a guy who was basically dealing blackjack at a casino and studying teaching. It was great to be able to just sit at home and pick up some money, even if it's not, life-changing money at that point anyway. When I was down in Melbourne, obviously I was working at the casino there at Crown. Didn't actually get really involved in dealer games there, but with the APL in particular becoming pretty significant at that time, I played a fair few APL games. I remember there was the occasional day when I'd actually drive around town and play 2 or 3 games in a day. They'd have like the afternoon game, the early evening game, and then the late game, and I'd do things like that. I'd sort of just drive around Melbourne and play these different games just to find time to play some poker. Also did a little bit of poker dealing for a few different places here and there. I left the casino and started working as a high school teacher in 2007, and with that had sort of time in the evening and a bit more of a disposable income, so I started playing a bit more poker, in particular at Crown, and that's where Hen and Mob in the tournament sort of starts to come in. You can see some of my tournament results. Early days were pretty small. Late 2008 through 2009 and 2010 were really my high point, I suppose, as far as my poker career is concerned. Not only did I have a few decent scores in tournaments, both in Sydney and in Melbourne, in particular, third place in the horse at the Aussie Millions. That was my biggest tournament score, 15,000 Aussie, which pretty nice score at the time, and so obviously I'd be happy to repeat. But that also allowed me to do a bit of travelling overseas. Went to the United States 2 times in 2010. Played almost entirely in LA and Las Vegas. Played a couple of World Series events, cashed in a World Series event. Only played 2 in 2010 and cashed in one of them. Again, the horse. Finished 23rd there. Again, a fantastic experience and something I'd love to do again. There's also a time in 2010 where I was basically playing poker for a living, pretty much from the start of 2010 until mid-2010 when I returned from the World Series. Not only had I played over in America, when I came back to Australia, I'd sort of travelled around a bit of the local tournament circuit. I was playing sort of cash games regularly, Crown, and getting by at least. I wasn't exactly making the sort of money where you can happily build up a bank balance, but I was paying the bills, I was getting by. And when I returned from the States, it really made me think about what I was doing for a career, and I just felt like I could really return to teaching. So I looked at a few different options and ended up going into, again, my other passion I mentioned earlier, chess. And pretty much since 2012, I've been doing that as my main source of income, with a bit of poker on the side. Again, still play tournaments. In particular, in the last few years, things have changed with, obviously, me and my wife getting married, and now we've got a couple of kids, both under the age of 3, so that takes up a lot of time. It doesn't really give me the amount of time that I'd like to have playing poker, but again, it's family life. You have to make sacrifices, and they're 3 of the most important people in my life, so I'm more than happy to do that. But it does take away the time from poker, so this is the type of thing I end up on a more usual day with kids, things like trying to get them to sleep. Takes some of the time away from poker, but try and fit in where I can. But of course, Dad's job is never quite done. When one goes to sleep, there's still another one that's tired. So, or maybe not tired. That's you. Are you going to go to sleep? Of course, when I explain where I started and playing the home game with the Sydney dealers, and then those guys who ended up starting the Australian Poker League, I've then come full circle and now actually run some tournaments for APL a couple of times a week in the Eastern Suburbs of Melbourne. So you can find me in some of the pubs and clubs around Melbourne running events. Also, in terms of what poker means to me, it really comes down to a mental challenge. Although through circumstance, a lot of the poker I play is no limit hold'em, I really do prefer to play mixed games, and horse 8 game, any kind of rotation where I can mix up the games and really give me a challenge mentally to try and think of ways to solve the games, ways to figure out ways to win the pot, win the chips, whether it's a case of betting, bluffing, having the best hand, but trying to figure each game and every game out as quickly and as best I can. Big thanks to Andrew and Jeff for the opportunity to do these vlogs and put it in a bit more of a focus compared to what I had started out the year doing with my vlog. So hopefully these next few vlogs will be a bit more focused, a bit more targeted, and hopefully you enjoy them and might see you in paradise. In terms of this competition, I regularly watch the vlogs of Andrew Neeme, occasionally Jeff Gross's, but Andrew Neeme is more my more my style. An opportunity like this to possibly end up playing in the Bahamas would be something I'd definitely look forward to, and be a very, very memorable experience.